When did you start writing?
So I started officially started writing in 2017, but
Oh, really?
yeah, it was 2017, but it was like not even I didn't really oh, I'm gonna go be a writer.
Yeah.
It didn't work like that. I've been an avid reader. I've always been a reader, and one of the authors that I followed, she had this blog that she wrote on called The Passport, and she opened the blog up for submissions, and I was like, oh, I'll just try it out. I like to tell stories and tell my story. I've been divorced before. I've got kids, and so I wrote some blog submissions, and she really liked them, and she ended up telling me to start my own blog. So I did that, and then one of my friends that I worked with at the time, she was like, you got a book in your belly. And I kind of just blew her off. You know what I mean? You know what that means. When you in the church, you know. So I blew her off a little bit, like, girl, no. You know what I mean? No. But I didn't blow it off too much because I went home. I kind of prayed about it a little bit. And then one night I was getting ready for bed. And all these scenes and names and stuff just came coming to me. So I got up. I didn't even have a computer at the house. You would think that was 1998 when that happened, because it was literally 2000, and I didn't even have a laptop or anything at home. So I wrote the first chapter by hand, pen and paper, down in pen and paper at the dining room table.
You know you're a writer when you start writing with your hands. Yeah.
And then it just kind of took off from there. But I knew I wanted to do something because I was on my way to 30, and I was kind of I don't really love anything that I've ever done. I've been a dispatcher. I've driven a school bus before. I was doing dispatching roadside assistance at that point. I didn't really love anything. So
you the person that they call AAA and stuff.
Well, depending on who you have, so AAA is roadside assistance, but I worked for a Giro. They did your insurance companies, State Farm, USAA, Liberty Mutual. Yeah.
So after writing, were you, most people who are writers did you ever when you got to the point where you wanted to actually publish, was it excitement? Was it nervousness? Was it kind of is anyone going to read this, or?
I don't know that I cared about that, surprisingly. Of course I thought about it, but I didn't really know that. I don't know that I cared that much. I just wanted to have the experience. Until you become a writer and you actually hit publish, you don't realize it's like opening a can of Pringles. You know what I mean? Once you pop, you can't stop. It just you never stop finding inspiration somewhere. I watched the episode of Seinfeld, and it was the one where Elaine had signed up for the phone call alarm service to wake her up. And I was like, oh my God, that would be the perfect romance story. These guys started this alarm service in college, because getting the good morning beautiful text, that kind of sets your mood, That kind of sets the lady's mood a little bit. So I had wrote a story of these guys starting that type of business and women being on the receiving end, a subscription. But the guy that owned the company had fired somebody, so he had to fill in and go back to his roots. And he ended up having a conversation with Charlotte, and they had a romance from that point. That literally came from Seinfeld.
That's creativity. See, that's inspiration from. So you also get inspired by other
Yes.
Yeah. See, it's inspiration
everywhere, and that's one of the things I don't think people realize when you start writing and publishing, that if this is really what you're supposed to do, it's never going to dry up for you. Maybe a little hard to, push out, kick out, but you're never not going to have a storyline unless there's always something going on.
So is it like write or die for you? If you had to stop writing, how would you feel if you can't write no more?
Well,
what would you do?
I actually am mid-break a little bit in writing, or I won't say not writing anymore, but I'm not writing as much as I used to. I literally was a mini machine for a time or two. I went to having one book in 2017, and it's 2022, and I've got 36 books. Some people aren't able to do that.
And you like writing romance books, right?
Romance books.
So would you call yourself a romance person, or have you going through a lot of relations? You know what I mean? Like, are you going through a lot?
I consider myself a little bit of both, but the reason I like romance, which I didn't know that at first, my first couple books was really more or less me wanting to like kind of speak about my previous marriage and the ugly divorce and the family ties and their family being kind of prominent, if you will, like in our area. And when we got the divorce and some of the things we went through, I never talked about it. So I don't know that I actually really healed. So I was more or less writing that on like a therapeutic level, but mixing fiction in, because if people read it, a lot of it happened, some of it did not. So just be clear. I embellished a little bit because I wanted to make it entertaining. But romance kind of like started to be a really big thing for me, because I'm like, you see a lot of women not really knowing how to be loved properly, or Black women thinking they aren't deserving of being loved properly without going through the struggle, the struggle will hold them down, that type of thing. But I am a hopeless romantic at heart, honestly. So yes, but if I'm not write or die, but I do understand and had to learn very quickly that my writing, when I thought it was, the room, right? Like, I'm here and there's nothing else. But it was just a door that led to bigger things, because I don't know that I'd have even met you guys had I not, you know what I mean? It was just a stepping stone to get me into bigger spaces. Although I love it, I always love it, but I'm like almost not out of ideas. I just like, let me take a break, because I feel like everything's starting to sound the same, and I really want to give this gift to other people.
Have you ever thought about like writing, like turning a book into like a show, like Seinfeld, or a movie, or short play?
I thought about it with my first book, because it kind of gives me like those vibes. Like, it deserves to be like, look what this beautiful flower became into, right? Because it was a bad time. But that, if I did, that would be my choice of putting anything out, movie, book, movie, show, anything related. Probably be my first series.
That'd be dope. That'd be dope. So, I guess, what should people do, or writers do, when they hit the dry spots?
I honestly say give yourself grace and take a break, because there's like, but also realize like, where is this death of the passion coming from? Because it's real. And it's not always a you thing. It may be taking outside influences, right? Listening to everybody, or writing for everybody and not really writing for yourself. So that dry spell is not that you don't have any more creativity. It's most likely something that's then sucked it out of you. You've got to figure out what that is.
Oh, question. Go ahead.
Do you think you could write a romance novel about bookworm?
Oh.
Huh?
You know what? What about bookworm?
Yes.
But I mean, we are at a stage, I think, as far as like whether it be children, adults, or wherever, young adult is a genre.
It is.
And it's really getting big right now. So why not? Because just like, the latest Disney movie, Turning Red, it's all about that adolescence and the changes that they're going through as young girls.
Because it's relationships.
So yeah, definitely. I wouldn't go too far.
Well, Bookworm, I'm trying to tell you, Bookworm is better. He's a very romantic guy. He's a very romantic. But his stuff is, I have to censor some of his stuff, because Bookworm is too...
You be going too far?
He don't go too far. I just don't know if they're ready for him yet.
What would be Bookworm's idea of a perfect date?
Honestly, his idea of a perfect date, Bookworm.
Yeah, Bookworm.
is, the girl, comes pick him up. She gotta come open the door for him.
What? So we trading places?
He trading places. Bookworm don't play. But he's a nice guy. You know, it's because he always gets people like, oh, he got glasses on. He's so artsy and nerdy. He's like, nah. You know, I drag my leg a little bit. All three of them. But I'm just saying. Bookworm.
What inspired Bookworm?
Bookworm, to be honest with you, what inspired Bookworm? Well, Bookworm is I would say he is definitely a part. We're one and the same a lot. But what inspired Bookworm was the actual thought of society and how we as African Americans or in the hood or whatever, we always glorify somebody, you know, whether it be the drug dealer, whether it be we make these people superheroes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, in every neighborhood,
there's a big homie.
There's always somebody.
There's always a big homie in every neighborhood.
It is, but it's also somebody. I felt like creativity is one of the most powerful tools. Like if we didn't have creativity in the world, creativity makes the world go around. Yeah. So I'm like, this guy has the superpower, you know, because he knows things, you know. He actually can create stuff. He vibes with people, everything. So I was like, he's kind of like the hero that I would look up to. Mm-hmm. So that's how he came. That's how he rides. I was like, he's kind of the person I would look up to because, you know, everybody, no matter who you are, even if you're a drug dealer or drug lord, they read. They some smart people. They don't show it, but they smart. And there's always one person in the crew that's super smart and super that just know it all. And a lot of them, you know, even if you watch like the BMF series, this and that, they turned these empires into $250 million empire. They were bookworms. Yeah. They just didn't show that side. Yeah. So I was like, it gotta be a bookworm in everybody. You know, it's kind of like I want to just change the whole scenario of, you know, we got to be an athlete, or there's nothing wrong with it, or we got to be a rapper. There's nothing wrong with it, but you could be also a writer, creator, and this and that. So I was like, yeah, let me step out. And it actually just started as just me just writing a story about me, kind of calling it Bookworm, and then it was just like, it started, I just couldn't sleep on it. It was just like waking me up, seeing the image. Yo, Bookworm could be this, and Bookworm could be that. Then I'm seeing all these kids yelling, Bookworm, everybody, and even adults. I'm like, dang, this is gonna be like a phenomenon. Yeah. I was like, so, you know, I could see it in the beginning, but then it's like it starts, and I'm like, Bookworm is going, I'm just gonna rep Bookworm everywhere I go. I love it. You know, so yeah, so, and it's surprisingly people kind of like gravitate. I had a customer come in last week. It was a kid. A kid walks into the store last week, and I'm like looking around. I'm turning the music on because this is a little kid. I'm like, this little 11-year-old walking around here. Look. You know, and I'm like, you here by yourself? He's like, yeah, he's walking around. I was like, what kind of books you like? He was like, I like kind of like he kind of like, what's those things, anime type of books. You know what? I was like, you like comic books? He was like, yeah. I was like, I got a character named Bookworm. He's such and such based off me, this and that, you know. He's a little, you know, I don't want to say white guy, but we speak blunt. Me and Bookworm speak. Little white kid came in, he's like, yeah. So he's like, hold on a second. He came and he left. When he got his dad, he came back. And he's like, Dad, such and such. And his dad's like, well, your birthday's at the end of the month and this and that. He was like, I want Bookworm. And I was like, oh, shoot. He said, I want Bookworm. I was having like a camera to catch that. It was like a commercial. I was like, that's going to be millions of kids around saying, I want Bookworm. And I was like, dope. I said, cool. And Bookworm was, you know, looking at me like, yeah, I told you. And I'm like, look, you're the logo. You're the logo. I'm the spokesman. And it's true, we buy off of each other, but growing up, it wasn't cool to walk around with a notebook and pen. Yeah. It wasn't cool for me at all. It was more like, this dude was artsy. My brothers, we into gangs and selling, you know, do all this and that.
I wonder why that is for boys and girls. Like, what
that's why, is it? And that's why I wanted to change that whole trajectory.
Where did that come from? That whole idea that girls could read and write, boys and like
I think it all comes from the house, the home,
the environment.
You know, you take it all the way back. It's like the man go get up, go to work. You know, the women. It's like you take that mentality. It's like as long as I'm working to bring home money, you know, whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing more to learn.
Yeah, but it is because you don't know what you bring home.
Literally
You working all day long and you bringing back 5%. The person who hired you,
Yeah.
taking the 95%. So you obviously wasn't learning something. So it's like you got a person like Bookworm who comes in and is like, look, I'm gonna know what's going on. I'm not taking any shorts. You know, I own all my trademarks, I own everything. It's kind of like he's sharp as a blade. It's like, but he'll sit there and just absorb everything. And so I was just like, we're gonna change the world with this. Like, go into the school system, change it, make it look cool, because it is cool.
Yeah, and it should be.
Yeah, it should be cool to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be.
And enjoyable. I mean, and I think that's some of it too, is that they just don't enjoy it because there's nothing relatable.
But he's not. I want to take it back. He wouldn't. That's not his ideal date. He wouldn't do that.
Okay.